The first warning came from an old satellite network, its aging sensors picking up something impossible at the edge of the solar system. Dr. Elena Rodriguez squinted at the holographic display, her fingers tracing the impossible trajectories that defied everything she knew about interstellar movement. 3 massive objects had entered the solar system, each one larger than any human-made structure in space. They moved with a precision that spoke of intelligence, of calculation beyond mere random celestial mechanics. The Global Early Warning System, a network of observatories, space tracking stations, and advanced sensor arrays, erupted into controlled chaos. At the International Space Monitoring Center in Geneva, screens flickered with incoming data. Technicians worked with practiced efficiency, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as they tried to make sense of the approaching objects. The objects were not asteroids, not comets, and certainly not any human spacecraft. They were ships. Elena's team had run countless simulations prepared for every conceivable scenario of first contact, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality unfolding before their eyes. The ships approached with a deliberate slowness that felt more like a statement than a limitation of technology. Each vessel was a marvel of engineering that made humanity's most advanced space constructions look like primitive toys. The first global emergency broadcast went out within minutes. Governments around the world activated their highest-level alert protocols. Military installations from every continent began mobilizing, though everyone knew conventional weapons would likely be useless against such advanced technology. In orbit, the first of the massive ships began to deploy smaller craft. These scout vessels moved with a fluidity that defied known physics, spreading out across the planet's atmosphere like a metallic net. They took up strategic positions over major cities, military installations, and critical infrastructure. Dr. Rodriguez watched as the first communication came through. It was not a message of peace or exploration. It was an ultimatum. The Zoracs, as they identified themselves, demanded complete surrender of the planet. Their transmission was a clinical, emotionless declaration of ownership. They presented humanity with a simple choice: submit to their rule or face total eradication. The message was broadcast on every frequency, every communication channel, impossible to block or ignore. "We have observed your species," the message stated, "and found you lacking. Your planet's resources will be integrated into the Zorax Imperium. Resistance is mathematically improbable." In that moment, the entire world seemed to hold its breath. Military leaders gathered in secure command centers around the globe. Scientific teams began analyzing every scrap of data about the alien vessels. Governments that had been bitter rivals mere hours ago now found themselves in emergency cooperation, sharing intelligence and resources with unprecedented speed. Scout ships began their initial planetary survey, using technologies that made human scanning equipment look like children's toys. They mapped communication networks, scanned military installations, and assessed humanity's technological capabilities with cold, calculated precision. What the Zoracs did not understand was the nature of human potential. Their initial scans suggested a species barely capable of leaving its own planet. They saw isolated technological developments, fragmented political systems, and what appeared to be limited space exploration capabilities. The aliens calculated humanity's resistance potential at less than 0.03%, a statistical footnote in their vast interstellar expansion. But calculations cannot measure spirit. In research centers, military installations, and countless homes around the world, something was happening that no alien algorithm could predict. Humans began to connect, to collaborate, to innovate in ways that defied all external expectations. The shadows of alien ships continued to spread across Earth's skies, a darkness that seemed absolute. But beneath those shadows, a different light was beginning to grow. The light of human potential, of collective determination, of a species about to show the galaxy exactly what it was capable of becoming. The first wave of Zorax ground forces descended on major cities with calculated precision. Massive gravitational platforms carried troops designed for planetary conquest, their advanced exosuits gleaming with technologies beyond human understanding. They expected minimal resistance, a swift and systematic subjugation of a planet they viewed as technologically primitive. What they didn't anticipate was human ingenuity. In Tokyo, a young network specialist named Keiko Nakamura was working late when the invasion began. Her team at the Global Communication Infrastructure Center had been developing an experimental adaptive network protocol, a project that had been considered almost impossible by most of her colleagues. As the alien ships began their systematic disruption of Earth's communication systems, Keiko saw an opportunity. The initial alien attack targeted critical communication infrastructure. Satellite networks went dark, cellular towers were neutralized, and internet backbones were systematically dismantled. To any other species, this would have meant total isolation and defeat. But humans had been preparing for worst-case scenarios for decades. Keiko's team had developed a mesh network protocol that could operate independently of traditional infrastructure. Small devices originally designed for remote research stations and emergency communication now became the backbone of a new, decentralized communication system. Amateur radio operators, emergency response teams, and tech enthusiasts became critical nodes in a rapidly evolving network. In São Paulo, a research team led by Dr. Marco Santos began dismantling captured alien technology with unprecedented speed. What would have taken years of study was being decoded in hours. Each piece of alien equipment became a learning opportunity, a puzzle to be solved, a potential weapon to be understood. Military strategists from around the world connected through encrypted channels, sharing real-time intelligence that bypassed traditional command structures. The Zorax invasion plan relied on a hierarchical approach that assumed centralized control and predictable responses. They had no framework for understanding the fluid, adaptive nature of human cooperation. In the United States, a collaborative effort between NASA, private space companies, and military research divisions began reverse engineering the alien communication frequencies. Within hours, they developed initial disruption protocols that could interfere with Zorax tactical communications. The resistance wasn't just technological. As alien ground forces moved into urban centers, they encountered something completely unexpected, a population that refused to be conquered. Civilian defense groups formed spontaneously. Engineers repurposed industrial equipment into makeshift, defensive systems. Construction vehicles became improvised barriers. Manufacturing plants quickly retooled to produce emergency equipment and defensive technologies. In Berlin, a group of quantum physicists discovered a critical weakness in the alien energy shielding technology. Their breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of theoretical physics and practical engineering, a distinctly human approach that valued creative problem-solving over rigid scientific boundaries. The Zorax had calculated humanity's resistance potential with mathematical precision. They had analyzed communication patterns, technological capabilities, and historical conflict data. Their algorithms suggested a swift, almost bloodless conquest. They were wrong. Each city became a complex adaptive system. Communication networks rebuilt themselves faster than they could be destroyed. Defensive strategies emerged from spontaneous collaboration. Universities became research centers, transforming theoretical concepts into practical technologies at an unprecedented rate. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's global early warning team had become the central coordination point for human resistance. They compiled data from every available source, creating a real-time map of alien movements, technological capabilities, and potential vulnerabilities. The first 48 hours of the invasion revealed a critical truth. Humanity was not a collection of isolated nations, but a single interconnected species capable of unprecedented levels of cooperation when faced with an existential threat. The Zorax had come expecting to find a primitive, fragmented species ready for conquest. Instead, they discovered a planet transforming itself into a unified, adaptive organism. Every attack revealed more about human potential. Every attempt at suppression sparked new levels of innovation. The invasion had begun, but the real story was just starting to unfold. The Global Research Initiative began in a converted underground facility beneath the Swiss Alps. What had started as a theoretical physics research center now became the epicenter of humanity's most critical technological development. Scientists, engineers, and researchers from every corner of the globe worked in a state of continuous collaboration that defied traditional academic and national boundaries. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the center of a holographic display, his fingers tracing complex quantum entanglement patterns that seemed to dance with impossible complexity. Beside him, colleagues from disciplines that would have rarely interacted before now worked as a seamless unit. Quantum physicists stood shoulder to shoulder with materials engineers, computer scientists collaborated with aerospace designers, and theoretical mathematicians provided computational models that pushed the boundaries of known science. The Zorax invasion had become the ultimate catalyst for human innovation. In the first week of the conflict, research centers that once competed now merged their resources with unprecedented speed. Universities suspended traditional academic protocols. Government laboratories opened their most classified research to a global collaborative effort. As the entire planet had become a single massive research and development platform. Dr. Chen's breakthrough came from an unexpected intersection of quantum mechanics and material science. The team had been studying the energy absorption capabilities of the alien shield technology, trying to understand its fundamental weaknesses. Traditional approaches had failed repeatedly, but human creativity knew no bounds. A breakthrough moment came from an unlikely source. A young researcher named Sophie Laurent, originally working on neural network algorithms, suggested applying a completely novel approach to energy transfer. Her concept combined quantum entanglement principles with a revolutionary understanding of material resonance. The facility buzzed with energy as teams worked around the clock. Coffee machines ran continuously, holographic displays flickered with complex mathematical models, and the air crackled with the potential of discovery. Every failed experiment was not a setback but a step closer to understanding. Satellite communication networks, initially devastated by the alien invasion, had been rebuilt using a mesh network technology that made the system more resilient than ever before. Each disruption became an opportunity for improvement, each challenge a chance to innovate. In California, a team of neuroscientists and computer engineers developed a breakthrough in neural interface technology. What began as a project to help individuals with neurological disorders became a potential key to understanding and potentially countering alien communication technologies. The global research effort wasn't limited to physical sciences. Linguists and communication experts worked to decode the alien language and communication protocols. Every intercepted transmission became a puzzle to be solved, every fragment of alien technology a potential weapon. Manufacturing facilities around the world transformed overnight. Automobile plants retooled to produce advanced defensive equipment. Electronics manufacturers developed new communication technologies that could operate under extreme interference. The entire global industrial infrastructure became an adaptive, responsive system. Dr. Chen's team achieved their first major breakthrough on a Tuesday morning. The quantum energy manipulation technique they developed could potentially penetrate the alien shielding technology. It wasn't just a scientific achievement, it was a moment of hope for an entire planet. The Zorax had expected a swift conquest. Instead, they found themselves facing a species that could transform a global crisis into a platform for unprecedented technological advancement. Every attack revealed more about human potential. Every attempt at suppression sparked new levels of innovation. Researchers worked with a sense of purpose that went beyond academic achievement. This was about survival, about proving that humanity was more than just another species to be conquered. Each breakthrough was a message to the invaders. We are not defeated, we are just beginning. As the holographic displays continued to dance with complex mathematical models, Dr. Chen allowed himself a small smile. The invasion had become more than a conflict. It was a crucible, burning away the limitations of previous thinking, forging humanity into something entirely new. The real war was just beginning, and humanity was ready. The city of Mumbai transformed overnight into a living, breathing defensive network. What had once been a bustling metropolis became a complex adaptive system. Every building, every street, every citizen part of a unified resistance strategy. The Zorax had expected to find a disorganized population ready for subjugation. Instead, they encountered an urban environment that was more organism than infrastructure. Communication networks that should have been destroyed became a web of resilience. Amateur radio operators, community networks, and improvised communication centers replaced the traditional infrastructure the aliens had targeted. Each disruption became an opportunity for innovation, each attack a chance to develop more robust systems. Military strategists from around the world had long prepared for worst-case scenarios, but nothing compared to the reality of a global alien invasion. General Sarah Reyes, coordinating from a secure underground command center, watched as cities transformed themselves into adaptive defensive networks. The traditional concept of military response had been completely reimagined. In Tokyo, construction, equipment became defensive barriers. Manufacturing plants rapidly retooled to produce emergency equipment and defensive technologies. Universities turned into research centers, with students and professors working side by side to develop new technologies to counter the alien threat. The global response was anything but conventional. Drone networks developed by tech companies became advanced reconnaissance systems. Satellite communications, initially destroyed, were rebuilt using mesh network technologies that made them more resilient than ever before. Each alien attack revealed more about human potential for adaptation. Emergency response teams developed new protocols that combined military precision with civilian resilience. Communities organized themselves with a level of coordination that defied traditional hierarchical structures. Every citizen became a potential defender, every block a potential stronghold. In São Paulo, a group of urban planners and engineers developed advanced defensive infrastructure that could rapidly reconfigure itself. Buildings could transform, creating barriers, communication points, and defensive positions within minutes. The city became a living, breathing defensive system that could adapt faster than the alien attackers could plan. Communication became humanity's most powerful weapon. The Zorax had targeted traditional communication infrastructure, expecting to isolate and weaken human resistance. Instead, they found a population that could communicate through increasingly creative means. Amateur radio networks, community messaging systems, and improvised communication technologies emerged faster than they could be neutralized. General Reyes's command center had become a global coordination hub. Real-time data from every continent flowed through advanced holographic displays. Each piece of information was analyzed, processed, and shared with unprecedented speed. The military response was no longer about traditional warfare, but about adaptive, intelligent resistance. The scientific breakthroughs from the previous weeks began to bear fruit. Defensive technologies developed in research centers were quickly deployed. Experimental energy shields, communication disruption technologies, and adaptive defensive systems moved from theoretical concepts to practical applications in days rather than years. Urban centers became complex adaptive systems. In Berlin, community centers became coordination hubs. In New York, transportation infrastructure was rapidly modified to support defensive and communication strategies. Each city developed its own unique approach to resistance, yet remained connected to a global network of information and support. The Zorax invasion plan had been based on mathematical models of human behavior that assumed predictability and hierarchical response. They had calculated resistance potential, communication capabilities, and defensive strategies with cold, computational precision. They were fundamentally wrong. Humanity was not a collection of isolated populations. It was a single, interconnected species capable of unprecedented levels of cooperation and adaptation. Each alien attack revealed more about human potential. Each attempt at suppression sparked new levels of innovation. As night fell across the planet, the resistance continued to grow. Cities glowed with a combination of defensive technologies and human determination. The invasion had become more than a conflict. It was a transformation, a crucible that was burning away the limitations of previous thinking. The real war was just beginning, and humanity was ready. The research facility buried deep beneath the Andes Mountains hummed with an electric intensity that defied the gravity of their situation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a complex array of quantum computing systems, her team working with a focus that bordered on obsession. They had discovered something extraordinary, a fundamental weakness in the Zorax communication network that could change everything. Quantum mechanics had always been the playground of theoretical physicists. Now it became humanity's most potent weapon. The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. A team of cryptographers, quantum physicists, and communication engineers had been working around the clock, analyzing every fragment of intercepted Zorax communication. What seemed like an impenetrable system was actually built on a complex quantum entanglement network that had one critical vulnerability. Dr. Rodriguez's lead quantum engineer, Dr. Wei Zhang, had identified a subtle resonance pattern in the alien communication protocol. It was like finding a microscopic crack in an otherwise impenetrable wall. Most scientific teams would have overlooked it. This team saw it as an opportunity. The global research network went into overdrive. Universities, research centers, and technology companies around the world began collaborating with an intensity that made their previous efforts look like casual cooperation. Every resource, every brilliant mind was focused on exploiting this single quantum vulnerability. In Berlin, a group of neuroscientists and quantum computing experts developed a revolutionary approach to signal interpretation. They proposed a method of introducing a quantum-level disruption that could cascade through the entire Zorax communication infrastructure. It was a concept so radical that it would have been dismissed as impossible just weeks earlier. The first successful test came on a Tuesday morning. A small probe developed using a combination of reverse-engineered alien technology and human quantum computing managed to penetrate the alien communication network. The team watched in stunned silence as fragments of alien strategic communications began to stream through their systems. It was more than just intercepting messages. They were beginning to understand the entire structure of the Zorax communication system. Strategic centers around the world received the first actionable intelligence. The alien invasion was not a monolithic operation, but a complex network of coordinated systems. Each communication revealed vulnerabilities, strategic limitations, and potential points of intervention. The quantum breakthrough was not just a technological achievement, it was a fundamental reimagining of communication and information transfer. Human scientists had discovered something the Zorax had never anticipated: the ability to not just intercept, but to fundamentally manipulate their communication infrastructure. Military strategists began developing targeted intervention strategies. Each piece of intercepted communication became a weapon, each decoded message a potential strategic advantage. The global defense network transformed from a reactive system to a proactive, intelligent network. Dr. Rodriguez watched as the first strategic countermeasures were developed. The quantum disruption technique they had discovered could be used to create cascading communication failures within the Zorax fleet. It was more than a defensive strategy. It was a way to turn the aliens' greatest strength into their most significant weakness. The research team worked with a sense of purpose that went beyond scientific curiosity. This was about survival, about proving that humanity could stand against a technologically superior force. Each breakthrough was a message to the invaders. We are not just surviving, we are evolving. As the quantum computing systems continued to decode and analyze alien communications, a new understanding emerged. The Zorax were not invincible. They were a complex system with inherent limitations, and humanity had found the key to exploiting those limitations. The facility beneath the Andes Mountains had become more than a research center. It was the birthplace of humanity's counteroffensive, a place where scientific innovation was rewriting the rules of conflict. The real war was just beginning, and humanity had just discovered its most powerful weapon: the ability to think beyond the limitations of conventional understanding. The first human counteroffensive began with a whisper, not a roar. Modified alien technology, rapidly adapted by engineering teams, transformed Earth's nascent space capabilities into something completely unexpected. Research facilities that had once competed now worked as a unified global network, turning every captured piece of alien technology into a potential weapon of liberation. Launch platforms around the globe prepared for a mission that would have seemed impossible mere weeks ago. In the Mojave Desert, a converted rocket facility bustled with activity. Engineers worked alongside scientists, military strategists, and computer specialists, creating a hybrid approach to space warfare that defied traditional military doctrines. General Sarah Reyes stood in the command center, watching as the first modified strike vessels prepared for launch. These were not traditional spacecraft, but hybrid vehicles that combined human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. Every system had been meticulously designed, every component a testament to human adaptability. The Global Space Initiative had transformed from a fractured collection of national programs to a unified planetary defense network. Satellites that had survived the initial invasion were repurposed into a complex communication and surveillance grid. Private space companies worked alongside government agencies, their competitive spirit channeled into a single, critical objective. Launch protocols that would have taken months were now completed in days. The engineering teams had developed new fabrication techniques that could produce complex spacecraft components at an unprecedented rate. Manufacturing centers around the world had been completely retooled, turning entire industrial ecosystems into a massive coordinated production system. Dr. Marcus Chen's quantum communication team had provided the critical breakthrough. The modified spacecraft carried quantum communication nodes that could penetrate and disrupt the Zorax communication network. What had begun as a theoretical concept was now a practical weapon of strategic disruption. The first wave of modified spacecraft launched from multiple locations around the globe. They moved with a precision that surprised even their creators, using a combination of human navigation protocols and adapted alien propulsion technologies. Each vessel was more than a weapon. It was a proof of concept, a demonstration of human potential. In orbit, the spacecraft began their strategic intervention. They were not designed for direct confrontation, but for systematic disruption. Quantum communication nodes created cascading failures in the alien fleet's communication infrastructure. Strategic points of the Zorax network began to fragment, their once impenetrable system showing critical vulnerabilities. The space offensive was more than a military operation. It was a statement of human capability, a declaration that humanity would not be a passive victim of invasion. Each modified spacecraft carried the hopes and determination of an entire planet. Research teams continued to work around the clock. Every piece of captured alien technology became a learning opportunity. Computer scientists developed new computational models that could predict and counter alien strategic movements. Materials engineers created adaptive hull technologies that could respond to different combat scenarios. The Zorax leadership watched in increasing confusion as their invasion plan began to unravel. The species they had calculated would be a simple conquest was systematically dismantling their most advanced technologies. Human adaptability was a variable their computational models could not predict. Launch facilities continued to prepare additional spacecraft. The first wave was just the beginning. Each mission provided new data, new insights into alien technologies and strategic capabilities. The Global Research Network processed this information at an unprecedented rate, constantly refining and improving their approach. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's global monitoring team tracked every moment of the offensive. The quantum communication network they had developed allowed for real-time strategic coordination that the Zorax could not comprehend. Information flowed between spacecraft, ground stations, and research facilities with a speed and complexity that transformed the nature of space warfare. As the modified spacecraft moved beyond Earth's orbit, they carried more than advanced technologies. They carried the collective hope of a planet, the determination of a species that refused to be conquered. Each mission was a step beyond survival. It was a journey of transformation. The real war was moving beyond Earth. Humanity was no longer just defending. They were advancing. The heart of the Zorax home system blazed with the fury of 1,000 strategic miscalculations. Humanity's final assault was nothing like any conventional military engagement in galactic history. It was a symphony of technological innovation, adaptive strategy, and an unbreakable collective will. General Sarah Reyes stood on the command deck of the primary strike vessel, her hands steady on the holographic interface. The Global Defense Network had spent months analyzing every fragment of intelligence, every captured piece of alien technology. This moment was the culmination of humanity's most extraordinary collective effort. The assault began not with massive weapon systems, but with a complex quantum communication disruption that spread through the Zorax network like a virus. Developed by a team of global researchers, the strategy targeted the fundamental communication infrastructure that held the alien civilization together. Each quantum pulse was a precision instrument, designed to create cascading system failures across multiple star systems. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's research team had discovered the critical vulnerability in the Zorax network months earlier. What seemed like an impenetrable communication system was actually built on a complex but fundamentally rigid quantum entanglement network. Human creativity had found the microscopic cracks in their technological armor. The first wave of human spacecraft moved with a fluidity that defied traditional military doctrine. Each vessel was a hybrid of human innovation and reverse-engineered alien technology. They were not simply weapons platforms, but adaptive systems that could reconfigure themselves in microseconds. Computer systems developed by a global network of researchers allowed for instantaneous strategic adjustments that the Zorax computational models could not predict. In the Zorax command centers, confusion began to spread. Their invasion algorithms, which had calculated human resistance potential with mathematical precision, began to fail catastrophically. The species they had dismissed as primitive was systematically dismantling their most advanced technological systems. The assault moved beyond traditional concepts of space warfare. Quantum communication nodes created strategic disruptions that fragmented the alien fleet's coordination. Adaptive computer systems developed by research teams around the world predicted and countered alien defensive movements with unprecedented accuracy. Military strategists had long prepared for worst-case scenarios, but nothing compared to the reality of a coordinated global response. Every nation, every research center, every technological resource had been channeled into this moment. The diversity of human thinking became their most potent weapon. No single approach could be predicted or countered. Dr. Marcus Chen's quantum research team had developed a revolutionary energy manipulation technique that could penetrate the most advanced alien defensive systems. What had begun as a theoretical concept in a research facility beneath the Andes Mountains was now reshaping the nature of interstellar conflict. The Zorax leadership watched in increasing desperation as their invasion plan unraveled. Their computational models, which had predicted a swift conquest, collapsed under the weight of human unpredictability. Each strategic move was countered by an approach that defied their understanding of technological warfare. Spacecraft from every continent moved as a unified force, their communication networks creating a level of coordination that transformed individual vessels into a single, adaptive organism. Research facilities continued to provide real-time strategic insights, each moment of the conflict becoming a learning opportunity. The final confrontation was more than a military engagement. It was a demonstration of human potential, a declaration that humanity would not be a passive victim of invasion. Every technological breakthrough, every strategic innovation, carried the collective hope of an entire planet. As the assault reached its critical moment, the Zorax defensive systems began to collapse. Quantum communication disruptions created cascading failures that spread across their entire technological infrastructure. What had seemed like an impenetrable civilization began to fragment from within. General Reyes watched the holographic displays, her team working with a precision that bordered on artistic. This was not just about defeating an alien invasion. It was about proving that human potential knew no boundaries. The final confrontation was reaching its climax. Humanity had transformed from a target of invasion to the architects of a new galactic understanding. The real war was ending, but a new chapter was just beginning. The aftermath of the conflict transformed everything humanity understood about its place in the universe. Liberated alien civilizations watched in awe, as the species that had been moments away from total conquest became the architects of a new galactic understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the first Interstellar Cooperation Council, representing a planet that had changed forever. The research facilities that had been humanity's defense network now became the foundation of a new approach to galactic interaction. What had begun as a desperate resistance had evolved into something far more profound. The Zorak's technological infrastructure, once the most advanced in the known galaxy, lay in systemic ruins. But humanity did not seek revenge. Instead, they offered something entirely unexpected: reconstruction, understanding, and collaborative development. Research teams began working with liberated civilizations, sharing technologies that could help rebuild and grow. The quantum communication networks developed during the conflict became a foundation for interstellar cooperation. Planetary defense systems were transformed into collaborative research platforms. General Sarah Reyes oversaw the initial diplomatic efforts. Military strategies gave way to collaborative development protocols. The global unity that had been humanity's greatest strength during the invasion now became the blueprint for interstellar cooperation. Universities around the world established new departments focused on interstellar cultural exchange. Linguists worked alongside communication specialists to develop translation technologies that went beyond simple word conversion. They sought to create genuine understanding between different species and civilizations. The technologies developed during the conflict found peaceful applications. Quantum communication systems became tools for scientific research. Adaptive computing techniques developed to counter alien strategies now solved complex environmental and medical challenges. Dr. Marcus Chen's research team began exploring the fundamental scientific breakthroughs discovered during the conflict. Quantum manipulation techniques that had been weapons of defense now became tools of exploration and understanding. The boundaries between defensive technology and scientific innovation blurred completely. Liberated alien civilizations discovered a different model of interaction. Humanity did not seek to control or dominate. Instead, they offered cooperation, shared knowledge, and a fundamental respect for diverse forms of intelligence. Manufacturing centers that had been transformed during the conflict now became centers of collaborative technological development. Every captured piece of alien technology became a learning opportunity, a chance to understand different approaches to scientific and technological development. The global research network that had been humanity's defense became its greatest diplomatic tool. Scientific teams from different planets began working together, sharing insights that transcended individual technological capabilities. Economic systems transformed. The global cooperation that had been essential during the invasion became a new model of interstellar economic development. Resources were shared, technologies were developed collaboratively, and a new understanding of collective progress emerged. Environmental restoration became a critical focus. The technologies developed to survive the invasion now found application in healing planetary ecosystems. Research teams worked with liberated civilizations to develop sustainable development protocols that went beyond individual planetary interests. Dr. Rodriguez watched as the first collaborative research stations were established. They were more than scientific facilities. They were living demonstrations of what could be achieved when different species approached each other with curiosity and respect. The Zorak's invasion had been intended to crush humanity. Instead, it had forged a species capable of transforming conflict into opportunity. Every challenge had been met with innovation, every setback with collaborative problem-solving. Humanity had entered the conflict as a planet under siege. They emerged as the architects of a new galactic understanding. The boundaries between species blurred, replaced by a more fundamental recognition of collective potential. The first generation of children born after the conflict looked to the stars with a sense of wonder that was fundamentally different from previous generations. They saw not a battlefield but a canvas of infinite possibilities. The invasion was over, But humanity's real journey was just beginning.